Sid was really such a disciplinarian, a brilliant coaching mind, but he would wanted you to absolutely perform at the best of your ability, and his practices were tough. He saw mistakes. He'd immediately call the player out, but he was a legend for how much time he put in. Coaches put in more time than the fans can ever imagine. It's not a 40-hour week. I'll bet it's a 100-hour week. Well, you're a coach's son. And but I remember the very first practice, Sid wanted to find out just what he got. He knew that a team was really built. You better have a good defensive line. You better have a good offensive line. And so he had the players, the individual coaches were with their groups, putting them through drills, and he came over to where the offensive and defensive linemen were. He called them up, and he put us through a blocking drill. And what he would do, he would just tell an offensive lineman, the defensive lineman to line up, and he'd say, okay, go on 2. Well, it's really tough to block a defensive player when he doesn't know the count. And it's really tough to block a defensive player when he also doesn't know whether it's a pass or a run. There's little hesitation. When he knows the count and he knows it's a run, it is really tough. And at any rate, but the neat thing about sports is that every once in a while something happens and somebody does something better than it's ever been done in the history of the game. And that was about to happen to the guy that Sid had called out for me to block. His name was Bob Reissteiner. He was a great defensive tackle, 2-year All-American at Navy. And I just exploded just right, at just the right height. Bob rose up too much, and it literally sounded like an explosion. And Bob literally went up in the air and on his back. And then Sid was blowing the whistle, and he's yelling to all the coaches. They're all over this practice field. Come up here. I want you to see something. Come here. Nick's just crucified Reef Snyder. He knocked him on his back. Reef Snyder looked like a big fat frog. And I'm gonna have him do it again for you. And I looked over at Reef Snyder. His face is red. He's digging holes into the ground. And he placing his cleats in. He got down. His chin was honestly just a couple of inches off the ground. He's on a 4-point stance. There was no way I was going to be able to do it again. There's no way I was going to get underneath him. He wasn't going to let that happen. Sid says, on 2. And hut 1, hut 2, boom. And there's we crash into each other. Not much happens. And Sid, disappointed, said, "Oh well, you guys should have seen it the first time." He said, "Mix, if you want to play pro football, you got to be more consistent than that." And but that was him. But what a great coach. The people who are called modernly the fathers of what's called the West Coast offense, which just grew into this multi-receiver and using backs and wide receivers and tight ends and everything. Joe Gibbs and Dick Vernell and Bill Walsh, whenever they were complimented, they said, "No, you're giving me too much credit. I learned it all from Sid Gillman." And it was true. It was true. Yeah. He was truly one of the great pioneers.